Hey nerds, so gonna play. Oh, should be talking into my mic. Hey nerds, so I'm gonna play a large portion of this to my favorite intellectuals, Glenn Loury, one of the only conservatives who I respect because he's very intelligent and questions his own positions, and sometimes he'll steel man other people's positions. And they're talking about important issues related to Israel starving out Palestinians in Gaza and censorship related to the Trump administration in terms of being anti-Israel, basically, and also accusations of anti-Semitism and what this has to do with campus censorship, along with the media depiction of starvation and why there are such polarizing sides, and there's you know misinformation, but obviously a lot of details to be debated too. Of course, I forgot to mention John McWhorter I would say he's like a liberal linguist. And what's interesting about their discussion slash debate is that even though Glenn is conservative and conservatives are more likely to be, so to speak, pro-Israel and anti-Palestine, he's become the opposite of that way now. And John McWhorter is more basically pro-Israel and anti-Palestine. He might call himself a Zionist. I think Glenn probably wouldn't. But yeah, they have a really interesting discussion about all this, I would say. So let's get into it.
Wow, same thing. What about the anti-Semitism? That's a big part of the administration's reckoning.
Real. That was real. What a lot of these people think, and I've known these people for 30 years, they think that Jewish students and Jewish teachers and Jewish everybody should put up with that kind of treatment because they're white and they're part of the power structure and they should be able to take it. I can put myself...
Obviously, there are a lot of Jewish students who are white, and there are a lot of Jewish students who are not white because, as most people probably know, Judaism is not just being Jewish is not just a religion, it's also an ethnicity. But then there are also Jewish people of different ethnicities. Like there are white Jewish people, but there are also Arab Jewish people in like America and like every other country. Obviously, this is complex.
Behind their eyes and see how that's what they think. That's definitely what Columbia's faculty senate thinks, the majority of it. And that won't do. That's not what free speech is supposed to be.
I'm sorry, what do the majority think?
I think that the majority of them, I haven't counted, but I think there's a very dominant idea that Jewish students should be able to put up with people screaming in their faces and yelling from the river to the sea because they're white. It's different if you're white. If you're white, you're part of the power.
Again, that's like a misconception, but I mean, well, that might be really a rude thing to do that lacks empathy and makes you a terrible person. I mean, freedom of speech allows people to verbally harass other people, even if it's fucking awful to deal with.
Structure. You are a descendant of the people who imposed this whiteness upon the Middle East anyway. So frankly, who cares if there are a bunch of people who don't like you and express it vociferously?
That's anti-Semitism? How's it anti-Semitism?
Who's talking about like it being whiteness imposed on the Middle East? I haven't heard like anti-Zionist people talk that way.
To say from the river to the sea.
Here we go.
I mean, it's just
people who don't like you and express it vociferously.
That's anti-Semitism. How's it anti-Semitism to say from the river to the sea?
Here we go.
I mean, it's just an opinion about the resolution of the Palestinian conflict. How's that anti-Semitism?
Well, I'll do a you. The answer to that would be, from somebody who is not me, that the establishment of a homeland for the Jewish people is a central part of the Jewish identity. That's part of what being Jewish is. Now, there are Jewish people who don't think so, but it's not most of them. Go ahead.
Okay.
How does he know that? Is that true? I honestly don't know. That's, I mean, he obviously is coming from a bias, but also obviously is Glenn, but they're both trying to be reasonable, and I haven't looked into that particular fact, so I don't know.
So because Jewish people tell me so, that's how I know it's anti-Semitic. No.
Imagine being able to build an app with your name on it.
Mute this stupid commercial. Obviously, Obviously, there are Jewish people who think that being pro-Israel and Palestine is anti-Semitic, and then there are obviously those who don't. Like, obviously, like, no religious group or ethnicity of people is a monolith of thought. Like, obviously, you can't just characterize all Jewish people one way or the other in terms of this. People disagree about this.
And Glenn,
Oops.
If you were a white conservative who didn't like affirmative action before the Supreme Court's 2023 decision, and you went on the college green and you read meritocracy, not ethnic preference, would that be anti-Black?
many Black people would think so. And this is the
But
point.
would they?
But they would be wrong, because that would be a woke argument, and they are very anti-woke in terms of censorship to do with Black people, which they make a point of often as Black people.
You're right.
Here's what I think. The idea would be that the minute anybody chanted that once, they should be expelled. The idea would be, this is not who we are. We're not racist. I think that's too soft. I think that Black students ideally should be able to listen to a bunch of idiots say DEI has got to die, and probably more than once, and just hold their heads up high the way my parents would have, the way your parents would have. But on the other hand, the idea that Jewish kids are supposed to listen to From the River to the Sea on a campus which is the size of a postage stamp, chanted loudly by people with glowering faces all day long, every day until long after sunset for months at a time.
Excuse me.
See how he's like completely painting the one side as it's completely the opposite end of the spectrum as the other one, and like these are polar opposite perspectives. Like, obviously throughout American history, there have been plenty of Black people on American campuses who have had to deal with racist harassment, and like a lot of people have done what he would say and dealt with it. Like, people being assholes to Jewish people doesn't necessarily mean they're anti-Semitic, because maybe they're being assholes to those people because they're against Jewish people committing, whether you want to debate the word or not, Jewish people committing a genocide on Palestinians. Like, Jewish people being victims of a Holocaust does not logically mean that they're incapable of committing a Holocaust on other people. Like, obviously, just logically speaking, that's obviously the case.
John, excuse me, but why not? I mean, what is it so special about them being Jewish that exempts them from?
That's why pro-Israel people who are like all extreme like that are woke. They're really woke. They're just as woke as saying that Black people should get special treatment in college campuses. Why should it, like saying Jewish people should get special treatment because due to Israel? It's like obviously a lazy excuse for censorship, accusing people of anti-Semitism for that.
The discomfort of somebody yelling in their face, "I don't like your politics." You're attached to a nation state whose policies I object to. I don't like them. I think you're a bad person. Suppose you said that. I think you're a bad person for being attached to that nation. These people don't have to be right. I'm not saying they're right. I'm saying they're anti-Semites because they take that position. I'm still trying to figure out why that's so. If they say there's a genocide being undertaken, are they anti-Semites?
I don't think
do you see the
anybody's...
connection?
This is a complex situation because some are, and in some cases that is the case. Some cases, sometimes that is not the case. But obviously, it is not de facto the case, as some Zionists claim to be the case.
Between the things that I'm saying they don't have to be right or wrong about it. What makes them anti-Semitic?
I don't think anybody's making the argument that to say this week that there's a genocide going on is necessarily anti-Semitic, although I think that the word genocide is being overused. But my point is, it's the issue of degree. Very quickly, what was it?
Like, in my opinion, like I haven't looked into this anywhere near as much as a lot of people have, but like obviously to me, it seems like the Holocaust on Jewish people in World War II was a lot worse, but that doesn't necessarily mean that this isn't a genocide. Like, there can be genocides of varying degrees, and even if it isn't a genocide, it's fucking authoritarian, as cruel as fuck, regardless of what word you want to use for it.
So I've been gone since 24. In 23, it was probably, it was December of 23. I was walking out of a building around sunset with two students who happen to be Jewish, one of them wearing a kippah, and we leave the building, and there are people going by from the river to the sea, and just, going by very slowly, beating the drums. And this is the thing.
I should mention too what he alluded to there. There are definitely people who are anti-Zionists who are woke too. Like, both sides of this portray the other side unfairly, but I mean, it seems to me that obviously the people who are anti-Zionists have a hell of a lot more of a point than the Zionists.
We had to walk through that. We had to walk through the line. And I wondered how these two people felt, and I kind of knew. And the main thing is, if that had happened once, sure. If that had happened twice, sure. But that was the whole campus atmosphere for the whole year, basically. That's too much. You get what I mean about degree?
The Hyundai shift into drive sales.
I'm going to talk through the ad. He seems like he's being hyperbolic there. The whole year? It's like that throughout the rest of the year? Really? I find that... Oh, I'm not talking into the mic. I find it hard to believe that this happened throughout the rest of the year. Wow, 2 ads in a row right now. Yeah, he's saying it was happening this way the rest of the entire year. I find that hard to believe. He seems to be very hyperbolic, but I don't know.
I don't see how you actually act on your impulse. It's too much to confront people with that kind of harassment without infringing upon the prerogatives and the entitlements of people to speak. I mean, ridicule is permissible criticism, isn't it? I mean, making someone uncomfortable is ipso facto an act of bigotry? I don't think so.
For months on end on a tiny campus?
Well,
all right, let's not active bigotry. I don't really know what that means, but it's more than we should expect.
Also, are they harassing specific people in the protest? That's a key question. I mean, I think it seems to be that in some cases they are, in some cases they're not. But if they're just protesting and being really aggressive about it, that's not good. I mean, I shouldn't. I meant not bad, not good. But yeah, I mean, it depends on, like, if you're just yelling in someone's face, that's still allowed too, even though it's a lot more annoying than some like annoying people protesting. They should be allowed to protest. But yeah, like I said, these are different situations, and people pretending that they're all the same are, they're oversimplifying things.
Someone to tolerate.
No, I'm saying, should it be precluded based on a moral calculus about how we should treat one another? That's what I'm saying. I'm saying, should it be sanctioned, marginalized, held in contempt, the act of the humiliating and the confronting and the making someone feel uncomfortable? I'm still hard-pressed to see what the principle is here that would discriminate between that and a segregationist, oh my God, saying, you're calling me a racist makes me feel uncomfortable.
Some schools are...
Yeah, that's a good point. He paused there for a second. Like, if you're saying, like, if a Zionist is saying these people protesting Israel's genocide on Palestinians from their perspective, this is making me uncomfortable, so I wanted these people to get out of here, or their speech and protest should be banned on campus for this. That is not exactly the same thing, but it is very similar in many ways to, like, racial segregationists saying, I'm uncomfortable with these black students at the university, we should ban them. Sounds very similar, doesn't it?
Free speech say that there is a line you cross at which it becomes harassment, which is when it's being basically...
Is harassment violence? I actually don't know the legal distinction there, but I mean, like, verbal harassment, well, it's awful, I think it should be allowed.
Shouted directly in your face. I'm
not endorsing physically assaulting people or impeding their way of passage, but no, and they're going to be hard cases, and I don't doubt that there are incidents that are fueling the charges of anti-Semitism that are egregious and can't be justified. I don't doubt that for a minute, but I'm still back to my principle, which is discomfort can't be a basis for calling me an anti-Semite.
What did you see when it was on your campus? Like, if it's going on and on and on.
To be honest with you, I wouldn't be able to give much of a firsthand account of what I saw, because I work from home and I didn't go to campus that much. I know that sounds like a cop-out. And whatever it has passed.
I had to buy Kleenex in my office.
Oh, for people crying?
So many Jewish students coming in and crying. And not that there was a sign on my door saying, come do this for me. And for those who didn't like my New York Times editorial where I said that this was anti-Semitic, this was before that. But it was just that Columbia has a lot of Jewish students. And they would come in, and first we're talking about God knows what, but then of course that's going to come up because you can always hear it out the window. And, I just thought, wow, I can tell this is the way it's going to be. Is that the way it should be because of free speech?
Are Palestinian students entitled to the same degree of empathy?
Yes.
I mean, maybe their whole families are getting wiped out.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean...
Yeah, so that also by that perspective, if we're applying equal standards here, then if pro-Israel, anti-Palestine people are like harassing anti-Zionists, then should they be banned from campus because they make those people feel uncomfortable? If we're not practicing a double standard, that would make sense.
I don't mean to make too much out of it, but those are pretty sharp contrasts.
Frankly,
whole families getting wiped out, villages being, way of life being extirpated, versus the discomfort that somebody is anti-Zionist in your face. So I'm asking, are Palestinians entitled to the same degree? I mean, should we be worried about how they feel?
Yes. I mean, frankly, if we were talking about ongoing harassment of Palestinians, especially the vast majority who are quite separated from what Hamas specifically is doing. Yeah, I mean, we talked about this 20 years ago in terms of anti-Muslim hate, and Palestinians certainly fit under that rubric. If anybody feels like I don't consider it as urgent, it's because there aren't as many Palestinian students at Columbia as there are Jewish students, and so it's just a bigger story to me. But yeah, they don't deserve to be abused. No one should have to listen to somebody saying, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you, to percussion loudly with modern amplification for, weeks on end, months. It's the degree issue. Because Glenn, remember at Columbia, there's somebody yelling about Palestine or Israel somewhere daily. There has been for all the time I've been there. And you watch people fighting and having arguments. I never had a problem with that. It's just the degree since October of 23.
The world is changing and changing fast. It's hard to keep up sometimes. Luckily,
skip the ground news
there's
ad.
About 20 such Glenn Shaw.
Quit smoking cold turkey? Yeah.
Mute this ad. You think the degree of
Let's do this.
The degree of protests and vitriol having increased might have something to do with the unbelievable overreaction in response to October 7th, which
ask you this, do you
which
detect
itself was obviously fucking awful and no one should ever do anything like that, but obviously the response to it was a hell of exponentially worse, and Gaza is now rubble, as many people know, and we're talking about systematic rape, systematic types of executions based on targeting children's various body parts, setting up trucks with food to lure starving people that they have been starving out in order to shoot them when they approach them for food. All kinds of fucking awful shit. That's just scratching the surface.
And you said this week, in reference to something I had said earlier, a shift of opinion about the reaction to the idea of prosecution of the war in Gaza, civilian casualties, humanitarian disaster, and so forth. Does there seem to be a changing of the tone of some of the public discussion? Have you detected that?
Of course.
What do you attribute that to?
Because it's becoming harder and harder to craft justifications for the number of Gazans who are dying, especially when it's a matter of trying to get food. And, 2 weeks ago, an argument would have been that you can't tell just a Gazan civilian from a Hamasan, because Hamas don't wear uniforms except in ceremony. And so the idea was that the IDF were accidentally shooting Gazans coming close because you can't be sure whether it's every time I do this, my wonderful neighbors suddenly are talking right outside the door. I hope.
Does that include children that he's talking about that aren't wearing uniforms, or they? Oops, I'm not talking into the mic again. Does that include children that they're talking about who aren't wearing uniforms? Do they deserve to be killed as well because they're not wearing uniforms?
Hope it doesn't come across, folks, but I'm going to have to stay here because there's no air conditioning up here. The IDF was shooting at them because you can't know whether it's Hamas or them. I think we got past that last week. There's something more going on. I think responsible sources seem to be suggesting. And so it's getting harder to say that we're just being lied to. There's a part of me that's beginning to think, and I'm going to catch hell for this, but I hope it's constructive hell. I get the feeling that Bibi and the gang all along have really been thinking we're going to just mow them down to the ground. We're going to do it bit by bit, and eventually time will pass, but we will have gotten rid of those motherfuckers. And goddamn what anybody thinks. And we're now at the point.
Kind of seems like that's exactly what's happening, and the world is letting it happen, and Trump is greenlighting it, and Canada is selling weapons too, and so are many other countries. Kind of seems like that's exactly what's happening.
Where they're getting so close to doing it that it can't be ignored. I'm open to that. Yeah, that's the shift. What about you?
I'm sorry, I didn't understand the last. Getting so close to doing what?
They're getting so close to mowing them all down completely that it's impossible to pretend that they're not. And so we're in that kind of situation. I'm guessing that might be where it is at this point.
To mowing all of Hamas down?
Mowing all of Gazans down, to the point that the idea that we just want them to go somewhere else and be okay while we mow down the buildings and get rid of Hamas is, I'm beginning to have.
And you're gonna put up a Gaza Strip, right? Captain Fat Dumbass Daddy Trump. I'm gonna put up a Gaza Strip. I let Bibi do that, because we're really good guys, and I'm not a cuck to him at all.
A hard time believing that they really would rather mow down tens of thousands of other people too, because maybe they're thinking there'd be no way not to, but also they hate them. And I'm beginning to think that there's some high fives that they're doing behind our backs, which they don't want made official. That's the sense I'm beginning to get.
If I understand correctly, they're doing that in the open when they are not speaking in English in the media and admitting exactly what they're doing and what their goals are, if I understand correctly.
And of course,
yeah,
construction workers just don't like paperwork.
They're right.
Wow, another ad. I wish my channel had this many ads, then I'd make money from it. That'd be nice. Okay.
Well, I thought from the outset that it was becoming and then became and more than became in spades an excessive collective punishment in reaction to October 7th. I thought the goal of eliminating, eradicating Hamas was not an achievable objective, certainly not by military means. I thought it's a political conflict that is very old. Yes, of course, the intifadas, and yes, of course, October 7th, and yes, there's a lot of history and people are arguing back and forth about it. But that situation there is a world historic, unresolved fissure that smolders and is continuing. And I thought that inevitably, as the war was being prosecuted, that we would, people warned this from the start. They warned about genocide. They warned about collective punishment and whatnot. They warned about war crimes and whatnot, that chickens would come home to roost. That, again, you can parse these individuals. Are they shooting snipers on people trying to get food and whatnot? I'm not trying to make a big point about any particular thing. Just saying it was shooting fish in a barrel. It was an industrial-sized military machine over and against a resistance movement of, and
the military might of the American military-industrial complex, the largest and most powerful military in the history of the world, as even Kamala Harris was bragging about, right?
I hesitate to finish these sentences because you can't talk about this without prescribing to a certain kind of historical narrative. And, I'm going to get into trouble with people just for as much as I've said. But this is a disaster. I'm with Peter Beinart on.
Oh yeah, I forgot to mention. Keep in mind also that Glenn Loury he lost his position at the think tank he was working for because he voiced anti-Israel opinions. So, he's just independent like all of the other people.
Being Jewish after the destruction of Gaza. This is a disaster for Israel, for Israel's opinion, reputation in the global community. This is a disaster for the United States. We have oceans of blood on our hands. We finance what a lot of people on this planet are calling a genocide. I don't want to argue the word.
Including multiple different human rights organizations. But I agree, you don't need to argue the word. That kind of it's kind of pointless to argue the word.
The silence until recently in so many quarters of the American intellectual and political establishment, the isolating of these kids, the attempt to shut them up when they're, obviously there were excesses, there was stuff that I'm not going to try to defend, but you're in the position, not you personally, of castigating the people who are trying to tell you, stop killing those kids. That's you're in that position. And you have your rationales. What'd you say? Human shields? You say Hamas doesn't wear uniforms. How do you think that's going to hold up historically? What do you think they're going to be saying about that from 10 years?
I had to shoot this innocent citizen, or even more so, I had to shoot this child because they were being used as a human shield. Reminds me of that documentary, Ordinary Men, based on that book, which of course is even better. And, I've often criticized Jordan Peterson, but that's actually a good book recommendation from him. I remember one of the most chilling parts of that was that due to the mental toll that it took on the Nazis, what they started doing was this practice where they would have a mother hold her baby in front of her so that they could use only one bullet, so they could save bullets, and then this would theoretically be easier on them because they were only shooting one person. They're only shooting one bullet. Yeah, that's pretty fucking chilling, isn't it? Kind of similar to the I had to shoot the innocent civilians because they were being used by terrorists as human shields.
From now.
Okay, I think they're not wearing uniforms is morally revolting.
Great.
And in general, a great many people are morally revolted by Israel and therefore Israelis. They think it's just disgusting. I am, Israel has been far from perfect about things and is becoming, especially with the settlements, and is becoming less perfect with Gaza now. But I feel an equal revulsion for Hamas. I think they're idiots, terrible people. And no one...
I don't know whether I agree, but obviously they're both violent terrorist groups who have genocidal goals. So they're both, I would accept that they're both equally awful. Maybe Israel is slightly worse. I don't know. What matters is that Israel has done exponentially worse than Hamas has done. And Hamas is, like I said, arguably just as bad, but the civilian kill rate, according to many sources, was over 90%. Even if you make a conservative estimate and cut that in half, that's still a hell of a lot of civilians. I think the estimates are let's say put the most conservative estimate at 60,000 people who have gotten killed at over, let's say, at least 50% civilian death rate. That's a hell of a lot of innocent civilians getting fucking murdered for no reason.
Now, Frantz Fanon makes it acceptable. What they did, talk about extremes, what they did on October 7th went far beyond the colonized person rejecting the colonizer, and the idea of, well, what did you think that, rejecting colonists?
Of course, definitely agreed, wasn't justified. And then at the same time, without excusing what Hamas did at all, not even one iota, obviously Israel's reaction was way fucking overboard and completely unnecessary and should have ended a long fucking time ago.
I sure as hell didn't think it was that. And the idea that that's what it had to be, 1,200 people and then 200 taken underground and basically many of them just allowed to die, many of them elders and children, far beyond anything I suspect even Fanon would have thought that he was recommending. It's revolting. utterly revolting.
However,
However,
that's what Fanon thought, but yeah, I grant you that there
Yeah,
were atrocities committed on October 7th and since.
you agree
But
with
do
that?
you equate Hamas with the Palestinian people, with the Gazan people? I mean,
No. I think that they are unwittingly led by people who
Some people too, but some people do rather, but that's why he's not anywhere near as bad as some people on this subject.
have amassed a certain amount of violent power such that they can't get out from under them. And those people don't deserve to be starved. And here's the thing. Here's why we're out of our alley. Are they being starved? Why can't they get food into them? And of course, they're like 6 different
they being starved? Pretty fucking cruel thing to say, dude.
accounts, none of which seem to have any authoritative weight unless you've been there.
Are you ready to discover the secret to affordable premium?
Need that ad again. Yeah, that's a pretty fucking disgusting thing for John McWhorter to say.
Anybody who was
That
there.
doesn't mean that, like, putting all empathy aside, you're not allowed to question whether it's happening. But how about all of the photographic and video evidence? And look what lazy justifications he's using to ask questions and being skeptical about this. They're not good reasons.
We're being told that it's biased or that it's AI, but no, all those moms, they don't deserve to be starved. Now, I'm going to say something that's going to get us in a lot of trouble, but I'm wondering it, and so are a lot of people. Why is it that so many of the pictures are of starving children with mothers and fathers who look like they're not? I think that's a legitimate question, and I've seen one person.
How come in the footage of the concentration camps, with these supposedly starving Jews, they are with their families who look like they're fat? We have buffets and are feeding them in the concentration camps.
One picture now of a starving man, but why is it that the people who are starving don't look like it except for children? There is a reason to ask that question. Like if you're talking about the starving that we're being told about,
look like they're starving,
and we know what it looks like, those horrible Holocaust pictures.
They
don't look like that. But
this is a feature I just want to remark at a general level of the information war environment that the conflict generates, where the narrative control imperative is foremost. And where people, it's propaganda, it's, and all of the combatants are capable of engaging in it. And so what do you believe? What are your trustworthy sources and when do you have a second down?
Yeah.
And, I agree with you that people will get mad, partisans will get mad because you seem to, if you dispute, these got people are starving, people are hungry, and you say, oh, no, they're not. Netanyahu said there's no starvation.
Oh, yeah, side note, I believe this was before, of course, the fucking bloodthirsty warmongers, Barry Weiss and her Free Press organization, they wrote this heavily debunked article questioning the New York Times article in which they were talking about the starvation of Gaza citizens, including the starvation of many citizens. It's a pretty disgusting thing to read.
Gaza, there's no shortage of food in Gaza. You're going to have a lot of people mad at you for saying that, But what do you believe? Who do you believe? I mean, that is a question that remains.
I'm inclined to think that there is a mass starvation going on from reading so many people.
Well, at least he admits that.
Who've been on the ground, who seem to be giving clear-eyed, honest reports. I don't completely understand why, but I'm inclined to believe that that's what's going on. And I can imagine putting myself behind the eyes of, Bezalel Smotrich, or,
do you think revenge played an important role in motivating the ferocity of the response to October 7th? The seeking of revenge, that was a subtext of the politics of it.
But it was also something else, Glenn. I hope I'm not overstepping by saying this, but a whole culture has grown up that lives for the fantasy that Israel is going to be destroyed. and will die for it. The idea being that it makes you noble to die for getting rid of these Jews who have invaded our land. And it's not that that's just, one of many issues. It's the staple of their sense of identity. That happens to human beings.
Who is they?
As in the most revolutionary among the Palestinians, and unfortunately, those who happen to end up representing them when it comes to Hamas. They live for it. And you and I are familiar with this because we know there's a certain kind of black person who, if you pulled away...
Maybe Hamas, not anti-Zionists.
The white people, I experience racism every day. Racism is always there, blah, 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 blah. But I see racism whenever I see imbalances. If you pull that away, they wouldn't know quite how to stand. They wouldn't have a sense of purpose.
Kind of sounds like woke pro-Israel Zionists.
You would be pulling away their whole soul. That's them too. It's Hamas too. And I think that, you know what I did not watch? I was offered, you probably were too, a few times to see the recordings of what those people did to those dancing young Israelis, like to see all of these rapes, dismemberings. I didn't want to see it, but I've read enough about it. That's beyond revenge.
Terrorism, rape, mutilation, all bad, regardless of who does it.
That's something else. You're living for it. And
your
how do you deal
response
with
to my
that?
question, I asked you about the Israeli motivation, is to say that even if they were motivated by revenge, it wasn't nearly anything like the vitriol that is harbored by the Palestinian radicals. That's a question. I'm asking you, is that what you're...
I don't think it's revenge. It's that they want to make sure that Hamas never does that again. And I think they feel at this point that the
kind of sounds like revenge motivating genocide to me. Does it sound that way to you?
only way to do that is to eliminate Hamas, whatever that means.
To eliminate the population that gives rise to Hamas, because they haven't eliminated Hamas. That's
they
for
might
sure.
think that
That would be the Palestinians. And yes, when people are being arguably genocided, they're more prone to joining the terrorist group, which is the only people who are fighting for them, in spite of the fact that they are arguably equally evil to the Israelis who are murdering all the Palestinians.
The only way
to cleanse the area, that is to induce people to depart, to reduce the population there?
They might think that.
They're going to set up a Gaza Strip.
And that's where I lose it. That's not what I was thinking was supposed to go on. Of course,
Good.
I mean, who am I? But of course, there were going to be a great many collateral deaths. But this seems to be something else. And I wonder whether this was the intention all along. Many people say, oh, of course, but no, it's fun to say that. But maybe it has evolved that way. But
this is an event.
I think you could argue that point, but either way, the results have been pretty fucking horrific.
In my humble estimation, that is of great historical significance, and I think it's going to change the. You say the Hamas hopes that Israel would not exist. Well, Israel can fail in a lot of ways without being overrun by an army.
What do you mean?
What I mean is the idea of Israel, the noble idea, the romantic idea, the great idea, can get frustrated by the actual behavior of the Israeli government.
Oh.
I mean, the vast majority of the world populations wants to see there be a Palestinian state there. It's not just anti-colonial radicals who think that what has happened to the Palestinian people since 1948 is a historical crime.
Yeah, a lot of pretty anti-woke lefties who I've seen have this position.
I am not saying that's true.
You can even use metal spatulas.
Wow, there is an unbelievable amount of ads on this video.
I'm saying that the specter of that judgment is not eliminated by destroying Hamas. That judgment that the project is flawed, that there's something problematic there, Israelis can come to that conclusion. People can leave.
Yep.
There are a lot of possible alternative future paths, and not all of them are glorious for that project. That's just a fact. That's just a statement of fact. I mean, it's not a hope. It's not a projection. It's an observation.
Sure.
The judgment of history is in the balance. You can't simply just declare it.
I remember having a conversation with Leon Wieseltier back when I was writing for the New Republic. This would have been in about 2002. And he was making, Leon is, I have my issues because of some stuff that happened between him and me, but he's one of the most brilliant people I know, and he's great with words. That's actually not the point. He was making a very articulate case for the two-state solution. And this is, quarter century ago, and I was saying, yeah. But then Yasser Arafat walks away. I believe that's in 2007, when he's basically offered, anything beyond what you could expect.
There are various disputed interpretations by historians and diplomats of the failure to pass diplomacy to result in a two-state solution. So if you're going to blame Arafat, I'm okay to stipulate that for the sake of conversation. But I just want to go on record saying that I think there are arguments to the contrary, that et cetera, ad infinitum, ad nauseum.
And I respect that, and there's nothing glib I have to say about it. But then also Gaza, give it to them. In 2005, do they build it into another state? No, they build a whole bunch of tunnels under it so they can hide under there and try to make Israel go away. And
is that true? I don't know whether it is.
So the question is, can there be a two-state solution where one of the states is not committed to wiping the other state off of the earth? There's something that you often hear.
Yeah, I kind of think both sides are, perhaps even more so Israel. And even if you say that Hamas equally so has that ideology, obviously Palestinian people do not. And I mean, if I understand correctly, more Israeli citizens support what Israel is doing than Palestinians support what Hamas is doing. But it's also obviously the case that some percentage of Palestinians, although if I understand correctly, a much lower percentage of them are approving of what Hamas is doing for understandable reasons that are not justifications that I mentioned earlier, right? But yeah, again, that also, and like I said, apparently, if it is true that the majority of Israelis approve of Israel's genocide on Palestinians, it's still also obviously not automatically the case that an Israeli person, or even or especially an Israeli person in Israel, is approving of this genocide, regardless of what word you want to use.
Which is, if Hamas put down its arms, there would be two states. If Israel put down its arms, they would be destroyed.
Many people would say the opposite of that is true, bro. So I don't know what I really don't think you're right about that. Even if the other side is wrong, that's a pretty fucking extreme opinion.
That is a fact. I believe. Maybe I'm wrong.
No, it's not. Listen, he's about to sound like Jordan Peterson.
But I'm not. And so where do you go from there? Give it to them. In 2005, do they build it into another state? No, they build a whole bunch of tunnels under it so they can hide under there and try to make Israel go away. And so the question is, can there be a two-state solution where one of the states is not committed to wiping the other state off of the earth? There's something that you often hear, which is,
dude, Israel isn't wanting to do that at all. Not one bit. Nope, not at all.
Hamas put down its arms, there would be two states. If Israel put down its arms, they would be destroyed. That is a fact. I believe.
Yeah, bro.
Maybe I'm wrong, but I'm not.
Sounded like Jordan Peterson, eh?
I have an exciting announcement for everyone.
I believe. Maybe I'm wrong, but I'm not.
This could be a turning point
Jordan
for many.
Peterson saying,
and
so I could be wrong about this, but I could also not be wrong. And Brett Weinstein says, the fact that that's even plausible is stunning. And of course, Jordan Peterson is making his completely fucking unbelievably stupid and false claim that hospitals do more harm than good. And that's obviously bullshit. I think on balance, hospitals do more harm than good. Now, I could be wrong about that, but I could also not be wrong. And Brett Weinstein says, the fact that that's even plausible is stunning.
So where do you go from there?
If that's a question to me, I don't know where you go from there.
That's him saying, basically implying that Israel, if both sides surrendered, if there were a ceasefire, Hamas would wipe out Israel rather than the other way around.
You know that Gaza has been destroyed. And I thought what we were talking about was whether or not that's a
rubble, dude. Israel is not
historical state on the project of standing up the state of Israel and securing its legitimacy.
Well, and what would, we're at a point where we have to do this. What would you have done if you were Israel?
I would have probably stopped killing at some point, short of where they stopped. I mean, there would have been,
probably stopped killing at some point short of where they stopped. I don't think they have stopped.
There had to be a vigorous response to the attack. This is a political problem. I mean, there's no solution to this problem by military means, I don't think. Although we're going to live, if we live long enough, we're going to find out.
Yep.
It's the hardest problem in the world, which a lot of people don't seem to understand. But the moral claims on this are so complicated.
I would venture a guess and say most people probably don't understand. And I'm not saying that I do.
And it's hard.
Let me ask you this. So we're the black guy. We used to be the black guy.
So this is where they get onto other topics. But yeah, I wanted to play a large portion of that. And yeah, they get into like discussing and debating very key issues in terms of the Trump administration and what's going on with it, like, so to speak, Israel's genocide on Palestinians. And in terms of accusations, I think completely false accusations of anti-Semitism for the most part, for being anti-Zionist. And obviously the pro-censorship from this guy, Captain Fat Dumbass Trump president, who pretended to be all pro-free speech. Yeah, what's going on with censorship in America in terms of using anti-Semitism as a lazy excuse for censorship, and Trump being if not a fascist, at least an extreme authoritarian, cracking down on free speech that he doesn't like. And obviously what's going on with Israel's genocide on Palestinians is awful. And my camera just cut out, so I'm gonna end the stream here. All right. Oh yeah, check out my Patreon. I always forget to mention that. Like, subscribe, share, comment on the video, give me a tip on Patreon, or give me $1 a month. All right, adios until next time, nerds.